In the Legend of Korra, we don't know what happens to Suki as she isn't shown or mentioned at all, and because of that fans have theorized that she died pretty young, but that's just headcanon. But I wrote a fan story that goes over this idea, so just sit back and enjoy. Sokka awoke, hearing the creaking of his bed as he got up for the day. He looked over to see that Suki must have already left. She had taken the role of guarding Zuko since he's been Fire Lord for about 5 years now, fairly serious. He was happy that she was happy, and they were together, so what more could he ask for? They were currently in the Fire Nation colonies and were actually in Crane Town, but they were making great progress. Sokka felt like this place could be the future. A place where benders of all nations could live together in harmony. That was the goal anyway, and Aang and Zuko both helped with that. Sokka smiled, remembering the good old days and knew Aang was with Katara somewhere, most likely Kyoshi Island, riding the elephant koi. He grabbed his boomerang and exited, walking past his fellow residents of Cranefish Town. The progress was being made here, and it was already shown, as this once unknown kind of a dump, to be honest, was being made into the future. They greeted him and Sokka walked into Zuko's quarters. They had already planned out the day. Meetings, and more meetings. Zuko looked tired and frustrated. I mean, what else was new as he scanned over countless documents, thinking about what the next best move was. He greeted Sokka and the two worked for the next few hours as Sokka had become a sort of advisor for Zuko. It wasn't official. Zuko just wanted someone he trusted by his side for a good while. He saw Suki with a few other Kyoshi warriors in the room as well. She smiled at him, and he smiled back. She was his everything, and he was hers, but a peaceful afternoon was then thrust into a nightmare when an explosion rocked everyone to the floor. Zuko was dazed, but ordered for his soldiers who just entered to figure out what that was, but that's when a rock wall rocketed towards them, knocking back the soldiers and killing a few others. Everyone took a stance and realized the situation was dire. Sokka got out his trusty boomerang and was about to grab his space sword, but remembered he didn't have it. He still missed it. Suki got her fans ready and stood side by side with Sokka. Zuko ordered them to go out, and as all of them exited, they saw a massive group of what they guessed were renegade earthbenders attacking the cities. Sokka heard one of them yell, "Down with the Fire Nation, death to Fire Lord Zuko and all of those serving him." Then mountains of rocks and boulders were tossed, destroying buildings as everyone jumped into battle. It was chaotic, but Zuko and his cohort were able to push them back. Sokka knocked out bender after bender, tossing his boomerang and then throwing it right back after it landed. Suki weaved her way through the renegades as she knocked them out, using her agility and fans. Sokka looked over as he saw Zuko blast a wave of fire at one and then blocked a spear from another. They needed to put an end to this riot once and for all. Zuko took charge and raced forward as Sokka looked over and nodded at Suki, who smiled in response. But from the corner of his eyes, Sokka looked in horror as he saw an earthbender who somehow snuck past them. He could only watch as the love of his life was stabbed from behind as the bender used a piece of jagged rock to tear through her body. Suki gasped in pain and Sokka rushed into action as he threw the boomerang and knocked out the renegade. He ran to Suki's side and held her as she bled out in his arms. He tried to stop the bleeding, but the wound was too much. He looked around for a healer, but there was no one in sight. He wished Katara was here as Sokka began to panic. He started to hyperventilate but was calmed as Suki grabbed his face with her arms. She told him she would always love him and that he was the funniest and most amazing man she had ever met. Tears began forming in Sokka's eyes as he pleaded with her that she would be alright, but Suki said that it was okay. It was her time, and she was going out as a warrior, and with her last few words, she told Sokka she would always love him and she would always be in his heart. As her hand fell limp and Suki died in his arms, flashes of the past entered his mind and Sokka remembered this is how he also lost Yue. He lost the girl he loved not once, but twice. He wondered if he was cursed, being born with no bending, thinking he had any right to be a warrior. How could he even think that when he couldn't even protect the person closest to him? Sokka just picked her up and walked through the carnage of the battle until it was finally brought to a close. Zuko and the other Kyoshi warriors looked in horror as Sokka carried Suki, and they looked saddened as he simply walked past them. The next few days were hectic, and the truth about what happened was revealed. A group of renegade earthbender soldiers who were loyal to the Earth Kingdom but hated the Fire Nation colonies tried to assassinate Zuko and destroy Crane Town. But Sokka didn't care about any of that. Sokka didn't care about any of that. He reunited with Aang and Katara as he and the rest of the Team Avatar flew to Kyoshi Island with Suki. Her funeral was held there and Aang, Katara, Zuko, Toph, and the other Kyoshi warriors looked in sadness. Everyone else had left at this point, and hours had passed, and Sokka was the last one there. It even began raining, as the droplets of water cascaded down his face. They mixed with the tears of a man who had lost something. But as he cried, he also laughed. He wondered, What would Suki think of him now if she saw him like this? Probably smack him in the back of his head. He knew she would want him to live his life, to help people, to help the world. So that's what Sokka did, and he never forgot Suki, even until he met his own eventual demise decades later.